One more time, everybody. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. We need glasses here. Hey, Katie. We've got somebody to come in with glasses. Do you have glasses? It's all right. It's a good group. Good group. 80 to 100. Wait till, I mean, a lot of people are living in different cities, so good. Tennessee, Columbus, Ohio. They flew in from Tucson. They were out to Mexico. I'm serious. Dayton, Ohio. That's great. Okay, we're going to start right now. Welcome, everybody. Can I get your all's attention, please? Hey, welcome. What do we say, Jeremy? Whiskey Biscuit. Welcome, thank you. Everybody, welcome to the Big Bourbon Club. Welcome to our annual Peerless presentation and tasting. Many of you were here last May when Peerless was here, so we're very excited. Corky Taylor, Caleb Kilburn, Cordell Lawrence, welcome and thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having us.
So I've got a question. Raise your hand. Does anybody here follow me on TikTok? Raise it high. Well, that says a lot more about you than it does me. But a friend of mine bought me this shirt a year and 2 months ago, and I said, I'll never put that shirt on. But I put it on tonight because I've been in TikTok jail for the last month and a half, and they just let me out. The violation that occurred to permanently delete my TikTok account, they reviewed my appeal and said I didn't do anything wrong, other than probably bad humor. So anyway, I wore my TikTok shirt for you all. We are very excited to have you here. We're excited that it's springtime in Louisville. Cress, we're excited that you've got to open up the doors. It's beautiful here. Say hi to my partner, Cress Brad, who owns Joe's Older Than Dirt.
Yes.
Raise your hand if this is your first event for Big Bourbon Club. Raise it high. Raise your hand if you're not a member of the Big Bourbon Club. Now don't break your elbows, get them up there. So, we have a couple different membership levels, but if you would like to join, take your little phone and take a picture of the QR code on your table and join for free. Join at a premium level, whatever you want. Hey, boys, don't walk in front of my oh, that's my son. Sorry, Aaron. And he's about on time as he is for high school and college and everything else he does. Like his mother, 10 minutes late's on time. So we've got some milestones I want to share with you may not know about. We're excited about. Today we hit 4,000 members of the Big Bourbon Club.
Wow, congrats.
Take a guess how many states we have members in. We're in 50 states. We're in 50 states. Take a guess how many countries we're in. 6. We are represented in 6 countries. Big Bourbon Club members. And it was not even a year and a half ago that I sat with Cordell Lawrence in my first meeting at this spot, and you helped strategize with Cress and me about what we ought to be thinking about to build this bourbon club. And I got to tell you, it's far bigger and more successful than I could have ever dreamed and hoped. And all of a sudden, I've got some pretty big aspirations to be a lot bigger.
I appreciate the partnership, Steve, and Cress as well.
Well,
that's been fun, seriously.
No, in all seriousness, this Peerless is our first ever distillery partner. And I would call I would call Cordell at night, get home at 10 o'clock asking about 2-tiered, 3-tiered Republic National, and I didn't get it, and I'm not sure I do, but we've since had 13 successful barrel picks.
You're a quick study.
We've had 12 distillery presentations. Crest, can you believe that? This thing's taken off. Yeah. It's been a lot of work, but it's been a hell of a lot of fun. We're having a great time. So thank you to all of the members of the Big Bourbon Club. Thank you to the sponsors, because without you, we wouldn't be here, right? So raise your hand again if you're a member of the Big Bourbon Club. Raise it high. Good. Raise it if you're not. Raise it real high if you're not. It's okay. We want you to see it. We encourage you to join. Raise your hand if you're a premium member of the Big Bourbon Club. Don't forget to ask for your 25% off at the end of the night, because you get that. Thank you for being a premium member. Our goal is to have 10,000 members by the end of the year. Hey, let me have your all's attention. Can't hear. Hold on, I'm going to stop so I can hear. It's really loud back there, guys. I want you, hey, listen, everybody. I want you all to hold it down when I turn it over to the guests so they can hear. It's really hard to hear up here. But the mission of the Big Bourbon Club is to make bourbon fun for everybody. It's real simple. We want to lower the barriers of entry to bourbon for anybody who wants to try it, anybody who wants to learn more about it, whether you're a bourbon beginner or whether you're a bourbon aficionado. It does not matter. This is for everybody. So I think we're doing the right thing. So let's do this. If you would, hold on, guys. Quiet. Cannot hear up here. Thank you. Give us about an hour. Talk just real lightly. Talk real lightly. Social media, I would encourage you and hope that you all would be willing to take pictures of the event, post it on your social channels. Post it on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. That will help us grow the club. And we're trying to get to... Let's try this. Oh, I can hear it now. Yeah, sorry about that, guys, ladies. So anyway, please do us a favor. Share on Instagram, Facebook, whatever your social media choice is. Take pictures of the Big Bourbon Club. Tell your friends about it. We've actually got a program in the club called the Ambassador Club. Raise your hand if you use the Ambassador Club. So the Ambassador Club is where you refer a friend to join, and you have a proprietary code on our app, and you get credit. And at the end of every quarter, we give bottles away. Danielle, you've won bottles 2 or 3 different times. But if you win for the quarter by having the most people join, you get 3 bottles. If you come in second, you get 2. And if you come in third, you get 1. Brad, that probably explains why you haven't had anybody join. No, I'm just joking. One other question for you. Raise your hand if you're from out of town. And you drove, so real quick, let's start here. Yell out loud, it's really loud up here, where you're from and why you came in, not why you came in, where you're from. North Carolina, Raleigh, Columbus, Tennessee. What do you say, Ryan? Anybody else? Danielle, where are you from? Jenny. So we've got a lot of people in from a lot of places. Thank you for committing your time and driving all the way out here. Raise your hand if any of you all are named. Listen to me. We're going to give away the first trivia right now. If anybody is named after the first ambassador to France, stand up. Ben Franklin. No joke. Ben Franklin, named after the first ambassador to France. All right, you get the first giveaway, just because we like you, Ben. And thanks for driving in from north of Indianapolis for us. So let me give you a quick snapshot of what's coming up. We are busy. I am really busy, but let me give you a quick snapshot of some upcoming events. Much of this is built around my real work, but June 10th, I will be in Miami, and we'll have a big tasting in Miami. And the tasting may be at a bar with 3 members, I don't know. June 14th, we're going to release Landry Reserve in Dallas, Texas. June 18th is a Flyback Friday. Saturday, June 18th is Marble Distilling out of Carbondale, Colorado, right here. Say again? Oh, sorry. August 9th is Angel's Envy. September 13th is Old Carter. October 13th, I'm going to be in Destin, and we're going to have a big event down there. November 3rd, we're going to have a Denver event at the Hilton Inverness. And November 8th, I'm missing our August Albuquerque big event, which Jeff Ronder had. And November 8th, we have Jim Beam coming in. So we're excited about that. Follow the event calendar on BigBourbonClub.com. Lastly, I'm sorry to tell you the Peerless pick that we're all excited about is not ready yet. It's actually ready from the distillery, and it's been, it'll be picked up soon from the distributor, but they got backed up with a little thing called Kentucky Derby, and we will get that very soon, but we'll let you know as soon as we get that in hand, and you'll come and pick it up from here at Joe's. All right, any questions? Last thing I want to mention before I introduce our friends is we're going to introduce a new technology tonight, and I won't tell you much about it, but just pay attention to the TV screens as we introduce the technology. It's very cool, but we have hundreds, if not more, members of the Big Bourbon Club watching us live stream, and we're going to bring them into the room with us. So with no further ado, thanks for coming out, and thank you so much, Peerless, for everything you've done to help out the Big Bourbon Club.
Steve, thank you so much for having us. This is always a pleasure.
You're welcome.
It's our annual May tradition just after Derby, right?
It is our annual tradition, that's right.
Did anybody hit Rich Strike? That's the better question, right? I'm surprised Steve didn't have like the superfecta, but
Rich did. Rich, you did it after the name.
Did you have it?
I didn't even know Rich Strike was in the race.
He can bat around tonight, right?
Yeah.
It was a last-minute addition.
Well, thanks again for having us this evening. Cordell Lawrence, Chief Operating Officer. Of course, Caleb Kilburn, Master Distiller, yes in the industry, often referred to kind of jokingly as the Doogie Howser of our industry, but he truly is a talent. He's a whiz. Often referred to as the young master as well. And of course, the insurmountable and always fun to talk to and a great storyteller, Corky Taylor, fourth generation. The reason that Caleb and I are here, of course, is the generosity of Corky. And he's got a few stories up his sleeve tonight, so we'll kind of have some banter back and forth. We're going to make this casual, comfortable. Reach out with questions. Feel free to interrupt at times when it's appropriate, for sure. We're going to take you through four different expressions of our product that Caleb will actually lead. I think the first of which is small batch bourbon. So if you take it away.
Y'all ready to drink some? Yeah. Okay, we're going to go around with some different microphones and keep this moving. So the product that you have in front of you is our small batch bourbon. It is 111.1 proof. Everything we do is at barrel strength. So make sure you take small sips, be very patient. And I see some heavy pours out there, so please be responsible. I know everyone has to make it home tonight, so keep that in mind as you're tasting. So something that's going to be very special about all of our products is we start with a process called sweet mashing. Sweet mashing is where we're going to start with fresh corn, fresh rye, fresh barley, and a first-generation yeast. This is going to produce a very sweet, very floral beer that when we go to distill it, we're going to get a very sweet, very floral distillate. It also allows us to come off the still at a much lower proof of 130, where the industry norm is closer to 140 or 145. This is going to pull off a lot more fruits and florals and grain character within the distillate. Couple this with the fact that we go into the barrel at a relatively low proof of 107 is going to allow that water to mature with the whiskey, pulling out its own flavors, its own caramels and vanillas and oaks and cinnamons from that barrel. At the end of the process, we don't adulterate a bit by adding water or chill filtration. Every drop of Kentucky Peerless you get is straight from the barrel. So when you buy a bottle of Peerless, it's 100% whiskey from the barrel, not something that's been diluted. As far as the process getting it to and assembling that small batch, myself and two other gentlemen at the distillery are going to go through and taste every one of these barrels. We're going to do this by drilling a small hole in the head of each barrel as it approaches 4.5 years of age. We're going to collect a 200 ml sample, and me and my panel are going to go through and determine if the barrel is mature. If it's not, it goes back in the rick house. We're not going to touch it for another year. But the ones that are mature and are ready to be Peerless, we have to figure out which Peerless they're ready to become. Ones that have a great balance to them, they have great attributes, but for whatever reason, they're not great on their own. They're better in a team environment. These are barrels that we're going to mingle. We're going to assemble the A team of barrels, putting them together so that each one complements the strengths of another, creating a whiskey that's better in any individual barrel that goes into it. And that's going to be the product that you have in front of you. So without further ado, let's nose taste. I want to hear from around the room some different things that you all are sensing, and we'll make it about you all from here on forward. Cheers. So maybe something in the nose that you all may be getting out there. Oh, creamy vanilla. Ooh, raisins, some dark fruit, a little bit of reduction. Kind of gives it a little bit of a cocktail twist to it.
Yeah, cocktail bitter, almost like a brulee we get sometimes a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Caramelized sugar. Yeah.
Now let's move on to the palate. Let's taste a little bit of that whiskey by putting just a small amount on the front of your tongue and letting it sweep back across so you can get that full sensation. Right here. Gotcha. So on the palate, what are you getting? Nice. So from the audience, we're hearing that it starts sweet and it shifts and it has some spice, has a little bit of pepper. It definitely has some different layers that you get as far as the different notes and aromas, and it seems to evolve as you taste.
We like to refer to it as layered complexity with our product. Yeah. Sure.
What's going on? Thanks for joining us tonight. This may be a little early for the question, but does Peerless have any plans for expansion? Maybe not necessarily in production, but adding a new expression to the lineup, or maybe doing barrel finishes or anything like that?
Great question, Alex. We actually have a number of expressions that are released in Q4, so basically September through November this year. So stay tuned. I can't say a whole lot just yet. We have some releases coming out, but I will say that it is 2 different bourbon products and 2 different rye products. So look forward to that coming up very soon. So a lot of excitement at our distillery, all thanks to Caleb and the production team, innovation, and the creativity behind that. So kudos to them, for sure.
We've got some exciting things for sure, both bourbon and in rye.
Want to talk about the finish a bit there?
Let's let them.
Yeah.
What do you get on the finish? What are some sensations? Does it linger long? Is it crisp? Is it quick? Is it fruity? Is it spicy? What are some notes that you all get as the barrel exits the palate? I'm going to keep going back to the well. You want to talk to me?
Wealth of information.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the feedback was that it's not a long enduring spice bomb, but something that's sweet and crisp with fruit, and then it has just this nice little smolder as it slowly exits the palate. All in all, pretty good stuff.
A lingering sweetness, right?
This is 111.1 proof. Because everything we do is at barrel strength, every batch, every single barrel is going to be unique.
So barrel entry is always 107. Then we let it mature naturally. We never alter the proof. So the batch they assemble becomes that proof in the end, right? So typically that's just a few thousand bottles per batch. So you always look for the serial number, which tells you the age of the barrel. Then the proof is going to be specific to that lot of barrels.
Well, if you want to jump
Yeah.
in, just tap me.
And with that, I thought, Steve, if you want to jump back in.
No, I'm working on some logistical things. Can you all hear okay?
No. Yeah, hold on a second. We got to turn on the speaker. They can't hear.
I think he's working towards in there, Steve.
We're going to turn the speaker.
Okay. Is that volume better?
This one work? Okay.
Check, check.
Check, check. Yeah, that's better.
Better sound.
All right, Steve. At this point, you could jump back in with a few questions or thoughts from the audience.
Well, yeah, let's do that. Number one, hey, Chris, can we get second round poured? Can we go and get that out? Hey, everybody, any questions in the audience? Any questions? Somebody think of a question. All right, Tom, go ahead. How many barrels or batch to make a small batch? 25. Next question.
Now let Caleb answer now.
I've done the tour 5 times. How many, Caleb?
It's up. It's up now.
Your totes are 25. You told us that 5 times.
No. Some barrels are leaky. We actually have expanded the sheet to go up to 50 barrels now.
Seriously.
But in practice, generally the most that we can get into it is around 38 to 40.
Do I remember it correctly that at one point you were 20 or 25 in the tote?
At one point it was.
Great memory.
Yeah, they got these mics all off.
So the answer is what? Up to 50?
Up to 50, but generally around 40.
Tom Reed. Generally 40, but can be up to 50 is a small batch at Peerless. All right, questions? Hold on, everybody hold it down. Questions? I saw another one over there. Any other one over there? All right. Over here. We're going to pour the second. We have one question here. Stacy, let me bring this to you.
I could repeat it.
This mic is pretty loud.
I may have missed it, but did you say the age statement?
So when we go to review the barrels, the first time that we ever taste them is actually going to be at 4.5 to 5 years in age. Like what we get, we're going to dump it then. If not, we're actually going to push it another year in advance. The composite age of the batch generally is close to 6 years in age.
So, for example, the one we're drinking right now was February 24th of 2016. They're just over 6 years old right here. Small batch bourbon.
Small batch bourbon.
So this was named actually, in fact, Best Kentucky Bourbon by American Whiskey Magazine in 2020. I think we'll pass it around the single barrel bourbon now, which Caleb can speak to as well.
So the single barrel bourbon is being poured right now.
Yes.
Do we know the proof of it? Have you all announced that and I missed it?
It should be on the bottle. I think it's 112.1, but I'm not positive.
All right, so who's got the bottle?
1.8.
Sarah, what is the proof on that bottle? Is it 112 maybe? 112.8. 112.8. 112.8.
So, with each one of our single barrels, let's give it one moment.
Easy enough. Okay. So I come to the process of
Once it goes together, it causes feedback.
but in all that grinding and all that basic, we come across certain one. So I'm really. And then there's the last because. Here we go. Okay. So as we're going through, we're mixing all.
Caleb, do it like MC Hammer does it.
Around your face, like your papers right here. Okay. So, as we're going through, we're mixing all these barrels to figure out which ones are going to play well together in the batch. occasionally come across ones that are just too special on their own that do not need to be made at all. And it's not ones that are necessarily balanced, because if it was balanced, it would be good. I never will be able to grab a single barrel of Peerless and feel as though they have a small batch in their glass. So what we do is we specifically curate ones that are very unique. So the one that actually is being priced right now is one of our gift shop exclusives that we have named Ginger Whiskey Sour. It has these beautiful notes of this really like candied ginger, almost as if it's like a toasted sugar as well. And it has this nice citrus to it. All of this summates together with a little bit of like a citrus bitters and a cinnamon bitters to create kind of this whiskey sour vibe to it. So as we go through and we taste this is 112.8 proof, and of course I'm going to be meeting on Europe as meeting nose from the nose and palate finish. So without further ado, let's taste the one and tell me what y'all are getting from the nose. So, what were some notes that we were getting from that nose? Steve?
Hey, everybody. Guys, it's so loud, it's impossible to hear. It just got a lot better. Thank you for that. Just hold the chatter down. People in the back cannot hear. I just talked to 5 people. Please be respectful of the people back there. Caleb, I'm sorry, I did not hear you.
Well, I wanted to get your notes.
I haven't even had the second one yet.
Well, that's what we're working on. Give me a nose.
Give me a nose.
Nose the whiskey.
I don't have one. This is the first one.
You can fix that.
Let's fix it and I'll give you a nose. Factory glands are kind of numb from college, but.
You've cross-trained a few times, right?
Are we running out of bourbon or something? Put some in?
No, you're good.
Yeah, Cordell. I get cinnamon immediately.
Yeah.
That was like a cooked cinnamon.
Has a little bit of a sweet and citrus to it as well.
I didn't get the citrus, but I have a terrible nose. I really do. But I did get cinnamon at the beginning.
Cocktail bitters. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Cocktail bitters.
I wouldn't know that, to be honest. That wouldn't be one of the profiles that I would know.
Yep.
Well, it's a whiskey for each person. Let's move into the palate. Ginger.
Ginger.
What did you all get on the palate,
Everybody.
We've got orange. We've got clove.
Baking spices back there.
What's the proof of the first one versus the second?
The proof of the small batch that y'all tried first was 111.1. This is 112.8, so it's a slightly higher proof.
Yep.
And just as a reminder, none of these are flavored, right? We give them these really romantic, kind of creative names to lead the consumer who's having this experience, right? Enjoying our single barrels. These are curated, as Caleb said, over a number of years to then land in this program. So these are the cream of the crop, the best possible barrel population we have is elevated into this program. No. No.
None at all?
There we go.
I don't know. It's going in and out. What I was going to ask Cordell was, everybody, chatter. Thank you. Cordell, you all have your own marketing department that for every single barrel you name it.
Correct.
You put a really cool, different expression notes, and you do a marketing piece for all the tastings. Tell everybody about how you do that and why you put that much time and effort into it, because most distilleries.
Well, we feel like our product and process, the process philosophy that Caleb first reviewed this evening, is so unique, right? Why would we let this go to waste? If we find the cream of the crop in terms of our barrels, the A+, the 10 out of 10 barrels that are pre-curated over a number of years, we have to do it justice, right? We have to give them names that are memorable. And these names, it's a naming committee, in fact. Everybody in the naming committee has veto power. So it's a true democracy, right? So people have a tendency to kind of go in certain lanes or directions or type of names, and then eventually we come to the best possible name and feed the design input, Kayla and myself, into Katie, our graphic designer, who designs all of these custom, they're one of a kind, about 200 barrels on average for each of these products. Once they're gone, they're gone. We have people that have toured us 3-4 times. They come back once a quarter, once a month, just to see what we call our Kentucky Peerless Tasting Company picks, our selections we have in the gift shop.
And I'm sorry, how often do those go out?
As often as we sell them out, we select the next batch. And Caleb and team are always prepared for the next batch. Yep.
From the audience? Any questions from the audience?
Now, thanks, Steve. Maybe a fun question.
All right, we've got a couple over here, and then we'll come back to Rich.
So that's a great segue into Corky, actually. So you can speak.
The name Peerless came from my great-grandfather. He liked the name. He named it the distillery in 1889. He liked it meant pure and clean and the best of the best. So he named it that way back when. And then we were able to get the name back, so we were able to move forward with it.
And Corky, you want to talk about the DSP number when obtaining that again?
Yeah, there were two things that I really wanted to get when we built this distillery back, because we were shut down for 98 years. First one was the name, Peerless, because I wanted that name. And there was a family in Chicago who had ties to Tennessee. So we were able to get that. It took about a year to get the name back. But what I really wanted was I wanted the DSP number. Our number is number 50. That's your federal ID number to make distillers. So we're number 50, and we're honored to have that. It's the first time in history the government's gone back to give a family back a DSP number. And we're number 50.
50.
Yeah. Well, Angel's Envy is 20,022. Michter's is 20,005. So it's moved up a bit. So there's the big guys are still, there's a few under number 50. So once you give it up, you give it up. Cordell got a letter, they'll never do it again. So they'll never let a number go again. So we got what we wanted. We got the name, we got the DSP number, and when people come literally from all over the world and they see number 50, they know there's got to be a lot of history in our family.
All right, any more questions back here? Gavin, let me give you the mic.
Okay. Where was your original location of the distillery, and where are you located now?
The original location of the distillery is Henderson, Kentucky. But, no, we're located on 10th Street, right downtown, Louisville, 120 North 10th Street. So you go down Main, you head towards the river, and we're right there on the left.
We're the
Right past the baseball bus factory.
So we're the western anchor of what they call the Bourbon District, or the western edge of Whiskey Row, just past the Fraser and Sugar Museum. So we have a rickhouse on site that's roughly 1,800 barrels, and then we have a 5,300 barrel rickhouse in Henry County, Kentucky, about 30 miles away from our distillery in Louisville.
Hey, everybody, listen up, please. It is really hard to hear the guys talk because of all the extraneous noise. I don't mean to be a jerk, because I want everyone here to have fun, and everyone's having fun, but all the chatter is causing other people to not be able to hear. So if everyone could please, in the most friendly request I can give, keep the extraneous noise down. Thank y'all.
And back to Steve. Back to you.
Well,
It's a segue.
okay. Any other, so we have a question up on the screen. Thank you, Mr. Bill.
So how have y'all adapted to the increased demand for all the store picks? So I tried Peerless at Liquor King and loved it, but kind of wondering what y'all are doing for the demand now.
Okay, now the volume was not up when you started. Tell us your name again and where you are in Texas, and then ask the question one more time.
Okay, Stacy Ernst. I'm in Allen, Texas, and I wanted to know what y'all are doing for the demand, the increased demand in the store picks. For example, it was a pick at Liquor King in Allen, Texas, and that's where I tried y'all and I loved it.
Great question, Stacy. Fortunately for us, and unfortunately, depending on the way you look at it, we have a long waiting list of people waiting to make selections. So we're trying to honor those within a couple of years if we are able to. Of course, we're going to help the people that first supported us and believed in us from day one. They heard the story from Corky, heard the production philosophies from Caleb, met with our team, and believed in everything we were about. We always try to make sure those are the people we support first. But newer groups like Big Bourbon Club, when Steve first pitched this, right, his passion came through. The concept of having a unique group that's accessible, that's inviting, that's all-inclusive in terms of people, making a bigger tent, if you will. Steve nailed that. He did a great job of making sure that bourbon was approachable and not intimidating for people. And it's amazing the cross-section of people from entry-level novices to aficionados, and every geography across the country, like you said, 50 states and 6 foreign countries. Kudos to him and Chris. I mean, it's pretty awesome to be part of this.
Thank you. And Stacy, also don't stress, because we have 12 allocated barrel picks a year with Peerless. Was it 12?
It's not 12.
Well, man, that felt like the right time to ask.
I know, he's trying to put the pressure on, but I got to stay strong on this.
I think it felt like the right time with the boss here. Okay, Bill, do we have one more? Okay, we're good. Thank you, Stacy, from Allen, Texas. Any other questions here in Louisville? Rich?
Restate the name of the single barrel.
That was
the ginger whiskey sour.
So I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but the rumor is that Caleb is the youngest master distiller in the world.
We always say, as far as we know, Steve.
Well, I can say I got one, because I don't work for Peerless.
World's a big place. I guarantee someone out there is younger.
If he's not the youngest, he truly is known for being a very young, very successful young master distiller. Corky, tell us where you found Caleb.
He's the best. Put it that way. He is the best. Well, Caleb was in. Can you hear me? He was in college at Morehead State University. Came and he wanted to come to work for us. And I said, well, if you can shovel gravel over there and you can pull nails out of this lumber, then we'll see how you can do it first. And when I found out he could work, then I realized this young man's not only smart, but he works hard. So it made sense. When he got out of college, he came with us right out of college. And we're honored to have him.
So we've got a question from Facebook Live, and I know you mentioned this Cordell, but we're not going to do the live. This is a question that came across. You mentioned that you use a sweet mash process. Explain just a little bit more what that means. And there are only 2 distilleries in Kentucky that use that: Wilderness Trail and Peerless. So tell us about that, Caleb.
So when you're talking about Kentucky bourbon, everybody knows sour mash. Sour mash is the standard almost all whiskey's made with, and that's going to be where you're taking a piece of a prior fermentation and using it as a starter for the next. What this does is it contributes some acidity, and it's a tried and true way of making it. When you're looking 150 years ago, the most technologically advanced way to make a bourbon or rye whiskey was to take a piece of that prior fermentation. Think of if you're doing sourdough bread where you have a piece of the mother to start the next batch. It was a reliable, steady source of yeast, and it added some acidity that helps like yeast over the different microbes that actually be contaminants. Well, as whiskey was produced, as the centuries rolled on, you had the opportunity for brands to establish their identities. And so they had all these different flavors and notes
that were synonymous with their brand names. There was never an opportunity or a good time for them to shift or move away from this, and most people knew what they were getting when they buy those brands, so there's no reason for them to move away from it. But microbiology came a long way in the past 150 years, and we have the opportunity now, as a new distillery functionally with our very old roots, to reinvent ourselves. And so we were able to sit down and review the latest and greatest technologies and determine what we wanted to employ with the recreation of Kentucky Peerless. So when you're talking about sour mash, again, what you're doing is you're starting with a sour mash base, a piece of that prior fermentation. It's going to produce a very distinct sour grain note within that beer that when you distill, you have to distill at a higher proof to help clean up that spirit. As you clean up the spirit and you clean that grainy note out, you're also stripping a lot of the good grasses, the fruits, the florals, things that we really like within our bourbon. So that's just collateral damage, unfortunately. We wanted something different for Peerless. So what we do is we start with fresh corn, fresh rye, fresh barley, first generation yeast every single time. And what we do is we are omitting that sour mash note so that when we go to distill it, we can be extremely aggressive, harvesting a ton of fruits, a ton of floral, a ton of grasses and molasses and sweetness, a lot of the natural grain notes without having to worry about the collateral damage. So sweet mash, in short, allows us to be very aggressive when we distill it, harvesting a lot more flavor without having to worry around some of the things that are synonymous with sour mashing.
Great overview by Caleb on that front. Another follow-up question? Yeah.
So the question was how many yeast strains we use. We use one yeast. When we were sitting down and working with Firm Solutions out of Danville, Kentucky, the kind of the bourbon yeast experts, we selected a strain that we thought was going to produce a very clean, very sweet, very floral distillate to help have the synergy with that sweet mash as far as trying to cultivate as much flavor from the mash as possible without having a lot of heads and tails to kind of muddy the waters. Yes, the question was basically reiterating how difficult a sweet mash is. The reason they didn't do it 150 years ago is it was very prone to contamination. Without a stable source of yeast and understanding how to properly sterilize vessels, what would happen is if you tried a sweet mash 150 years ago, it would spoil. Basically, when you're doing a sour mash, you're almost just picking your poison. You let it spoil in a way that's reliable and approachable and nice within the flavor profile. When you do sweet mash, you have to spend more man hours, more time, more to make sure that we're able to reliably omit contamination and focus solely on the yeast. And there are several things that we do to help stack the deck. We use basically a home run piping system where we go straight from the bottom of the cooker all the way to the vessel. We're going to sterilize that above 200 degrees for over 30 minutes prior to charging that vessel. We're going to overpitch a first generation yeast that is actually vacuum sealed as it enters the vessel. So there's never an opportunity for contaminant to get in and really have a sizable foothold that would affect the flavor of the product.
And that's a great segue, too, to talk about why we're such sweet mash advocates. Corky, do you want to touch on that in terms of those cleanliness standards and why that's so important to you?
Well, I mean, we felt like we're a military, so yes, that's how we're going to do things. Caleb believes in it, and that's where we came to the sweet mash. And I think that it just lends itself. We've gotten a great reputation because of it. We even went one step farther. Our whole distillery is kosher. So we've had the rabbis come in there from Palm Beach, New York, Chicago, here in Louisville. To my knowledge, we're the only totally kosher distillery in the United States. So every bottle that you have, that you take a look at or you buy, on the back of it, it's got a little KLAS stamp on it. Go ahead. Yeah, we'll look at the back of it. It's got KLAS. So
yeah.
I'm sorry. Did somebody have a question? I'll be glad to answer. Okay.
So the question was, is the downtown rickhouse, the one that is built within the current footprint of Kentucky Peerless, is it reserved for certain expressions or profiles? And to be honest, it's actually reserved for barrels that we've brought back to the facility and are waiting to be processed, or ones that we specifically want to keep an eye on to see how they progress. It's the ones that we monitor. Most of the early aging is actually done at our Henry County warehouse, where we'll get it to that 4.5, 5 year mark before we bring it back to the facility. And are we ready to try some rye?
Small batch rye.
All right, let's go with number 3.
Okay, so this is a small batch rye. When we were sitting down and we were figuring out what we wanted to make Kentucky Peerless's first release, it was very simple. It was our rye whiskey, because the grain helps mature with the whiskey just a little bit quicker than bourbon does. This is just based on its footprint, what it does, and how it matures within that whiskey. So this is going to employ all the same sweet mash, the yeast, the distillation proofs, the barrel entry, and the same review process. Now, when we were setting up for rye, a lot of people think of rye whiskey as something that is overly bold and spicy and puts hair on your chest, and you go out and you punch a grizzly bear after you drink it. And it doesn't have to be so harsh that it's abrasive. For us, we wanted to make something that was sweet and delicate and fruity, layered as far as its complexity, to where you can actually be a bourbon aficionado who finds this rye whiskey not one-dimensional, but multi-dimensional. So when we were setting this out, we wanted it to be sweet and floral and exciting. Now, it's still anchored in the fact that it is a rye whiskey. It is still going to be peppery and spicy, but it's going to showcase some really unique elements in that it almost has a molasses, a sugar cane, a hay, a little bit of a more botanical balance to it, as well as some nice herbs and spices. So let's move into the nose and figure out what we actually get on this.
And back to Caleb's point, we often refer to this as a bourbon drinker's rye, a very approachable rye whiskey.
So give me some notes. I'm putting you on the spot. Nutmeg and grass. Nice, I like it. So when I think of grass, I grew up in an agricultural community. I often think of that sweet cured hay note. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Give me some notes over here. You know I'm looking at you.
You'll get to it.
All right, we've got a question up here on the screen.
Question on the screen. Hello, Eric.
Hey, I got a question for Mr. Taylor.
Yes, sir.
Did you learn anything at all from the Allman Brothers that has helped you in this process?
Now that's the question of the evening right there. You nailed it.
I learned they were crazier than hell. But I tell you, we had a lot of fun. We had too much fun. I think we were asked to leave. We stayed there 3 years. I learned something. I learned how to climb over the fence, go to Dairy Queen, because that's where the girls were. So,
Hey, Eric, if you have a Peerless hat on, we're going to give you a free $1,000 gift certificate.
I don't wear hats, Steve.
Put that put that hat back on. Let's see what you're pimping out there. All right, we're going to hold that $1,000 certificate for somebody else.
I'm back. I'm back. I don't know why I'm back, but I'm back.
Follow-up question? No?
Alex, you're on.
All good.
Oh, yeah.
It's a small batch
We're
rye.
ahead of you. You said you weren't a fan of your nose, but give me your palate. Go ahead and taste it and tell me what you get. And keep in mind, this is 113.4 proof. This is the highest proof selection that y'all are going to be trying tonight.
Well, Caleb, I prefer 80 Hazel Hayden, and it's probably going to be too strong for me.
Let me go get some ice to put in here. I'm being facetious.
You like the hazmat proof, Steve.
You
Come
know
on
I'm
now.
lying.
Another fun fact about this rye whiskey, in fact, small batch rye from Peerless put us on the map. This small batch rye expression, Steve, was named 15th best whiskey in the world in 2017. Our first major award was this product.
I thought you actually won in London the #1 rye in the world.
No, that was Best Craft Distillery or Global Craft Producer of the Year. That was in 2019.
2 years later.
Again, I don't work for you. I can say anything I want.
That's okay.
The
I like that.
#1 rye in the world, right?
We've got to go to the web.
Who would argue with that? Stacy.
We're going back.
Okay, so the feedback from the audience was basically, it is really hard to get a single tasting note out of this because there's so many. It's a very crowded field. It's almost like a wall of sound, but with flavor. And that was actually a good thing. That was something that she was saying her favorite bourbons, keep in mind this is a rye whiskey, keep in mind it is a bourbon drinker's rye, is the fact that it has the complexity to carry that mantle of layered complexity.
Caleb, I get a dominant.
What is your dominant note?
I get spearmint, mostly on the finish. Mid-palate finish, very strong spearmint.
I like that.
Have you all talked about that yet tonight?
We have not. You're the first person to say spearmint.
It is absolutely, to me, dominant, and it's delicious.
You know, Steve, we did not preload that note for you, but what's interesting is that is a lab tasting note, meaning our crew frequently uses that with our rye product.
Well, for $300 an hour. Oh, never mind. Just joking. Everybody in the I'm interviewing for a job up here. Now, come on. No, I get a lot of spearmint. I really do.
See, we've got a fellow over there raising his hand awfully hard. So we can't share the specific mash bill because he won't let me. But I'll say the rye is roughly 60%. What it does is it allows us to have a sizable component of corn within the mash bill that really help bring up that sweetness and helps balance it out. My personal preference is the more Kentucky-style rye, whereas if you go with an ultra-high rye mash bill, sometimes it becomes a little unbalanced, just for my taste.
Okay, Mr. Bill Reynolds.
All right, guys, sorry about that. Wi-Fi issues. So you had mentioned proof, and I'm doing my own little Peerless tasting tonight. I'm looking at all the bottles here, and all the proof is about 106 to 111. Is that just y'all's sweet spot? You know, why is it right there? Have you ever thought about going lower or higher, or can you kind of expand on why your proof is where it is?
Alex is from Arkansas. Let me translate what he just said. Could you? No, Alex. Introduce yourself and tell them where you're from.
Oh, sorry. My name's Alex Cowley, and I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. And then that was my question.
Go Hogs.
Woo pig. I'll start the.
Okay.
Nobody wants to call the Hogs? Okay.
So everything associated with our end product, as far as the proof, Mother Nature decides, really. So what we're going to do is when we go into the barrel at 107, we allow that whiskey mature. Some of the batches end up pretty buffered because you have so many barrels that are slightly higher in proof and slightly lower in proof that they end up around 108, 110, sometimes a little higher than that. But when the single barrels come out, those don't have any buffering or any influence from any other barrel. So these are ones that are going to be the highest and lowest among our range. But every single thing we do is at barrel strength. So it's nothing where we're deciding we want to go lower proof or we're going to go higher proof. It's just naturally what comes from the barrel.
Okay, thank you. Cool.
All right, Alex, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions here? Todd. Did you, the question, can you all hear? Listen up, everybody. The question from Todd was, military was predominant within the Taylor family. Give us kind of a little bit of the lineage from his father and throughout, all the way through. This is a great story. Listen up.
My father went to Castle Heights Military Academy down in Lebanon, Tennessee. It's right outside of Nashville. He went down there for 14 years. Then he went into World War II, of course, in 1941, fighting the war. And then General Patton. So for every one of you who have ever seen the movie Patton, the man that was right with General Patton in real life was my father. General Patton gave my father his Colt 1911. So remember, he said pearls were for women and ivories for men. Right now, I own General Patton's Colt 1911 45. It's got ivory handles. He gave that to my father. So my father was always in the military. It wasn't all bad for me. I grew up in Hawaii. Hell, I was surfing. I was playing Pop Warner football, surfing. I thought I had it made. Then he said, no, you're going to go to military school. I said, oh, hell, I don't want to go to military school. He said, I don't give a damn if you want to go to military school or not. You're going to military school. So he took me down there. Of course, he'd been there 14 years. He knew everybody in the whole school. He dropped me off. I'm standing there, two blonde-headed guys standing next to me. We're laughing. You know, we're in prison now. We're not getting out of this damn place. Well, they were my two main roommates, the Allman brothers, Greg and Dwayne. So how that all came about, their mom was a single mom. Their father was killed in Korea when they were young. So she was raising these boys in Nashville, and she just happened to work for my father's roommate for 12 years at Castle Heights. His name was J. Boy Sanders. Sanders, man, remember the number 2 yellow pencils you used in school? Well, their family owned the 2 biggest plants in the United States, and the Allman Brothers' mother was an accountant for them. So Mr. Sanders, watching these boys grow up, got a hold of my dad, said, your son going to Heights? He's going. He don't want to go. He says, oh, hell, I got these 2 boys. They damn sure don't want to go to military school. So they can be miserable together. So it was prearranged that we were roommates down there, and we were together for 3 years, and wow, I think we were asked to leave. I'm not sure. Well, I don't like to talk about that. Al Gore. We got rid of that. Here's a quick story on. We got there on a Sunday, and by the next Sunday, we knew where the girls were. The girls were at the Dairy Queen on Sunday night. So 9 o'clock next Sunday, I said, we're out of here. We're getting the hell out of here. They said, well, we can't. We're locked in. I said, I don't give a damn. We're locked in or not. We're climbing the fence. We're getting out of here. So we go back to the back where the horse barns were. We went to the Dairy Queen. The girls were there. We had no money. We didn't have a dime. My dad dropped me off. I said, Dad, I don't have any money. He goes, son, I went there for 14 years. They're going to give you a toothbrush, wool clothes, and 3 meals a day. Get your ass out of the car. I said, he didn't even stay. I said, okay, yes, sir. Go to the Dairy Queen. Same thing with the Allman Brothers. They didn't have a dime. We go there. We couldn't even buy a Coke. So we're walking back. I said, this isn't going to work. I said, starting tomorrow, I'm going to go to all these rich boys. Of course, Al, one of them. I didn't get any money from Al, but that's another story. So I put together nickel dime. I go down to this is 1961, so it's a long time ago. Go down to the drugstore. I buy these little vials of cinnamon. I go in the cafeteria. I take toothpicks. I soak them. I sell them to all the rich boys, 10 cents a piece. 10 in the morning, 10 at lunch, 10 at dinner. That's $3 a day. The next Sunday, we went to Dairy Queen. We had $20 in our bucket. We were having a whole hell of a lot more fun at the Dairy Queen with $20. And then Greg wrote about me. I said, Greg, it's a damn lie. He said, you had a lot of money when you left. I said, I didn't have any money. We spent all the money. So that's kind of the way. We're a military family.
And guys, you're on live TV. If you're going to break in, just introduce yourselves, everybody.
My name's Tyler.
Get the hell out of here, guys. Okay, sorry.
No worries. Great story once again. Interesting fact about that story. So the toothpick portion of that story is in Greg Allman's autobiography by the title of My Cross to Bear. He tells a short excerpt of that story.
Well, we got back about midnight thinking we were sneaking in, and there's Captain White. I still remember on the third. Well, he's only about a foot tall, so he had to be on the third step. He's raising hell, giving me hell. And I said, "What the hell's going on?" And they said, "Well, somebody turned you in." I said, "Oh, really? Who was that?" Well, you got that right.
So did you all hear that? The
so let's
man
just
who
say-
invented the internet.
No, I did that.
Oh, you invented the internet?
Hell yeah.
Hell, I thought you invented the number one rye whiskey
I
in the
spent
world.
a week with him. You know, I like a lot. So we got rid of Al, but what the hell?
All right, so we've got to. Oh, okay, Bill, you're going to take us back to digital land.
Hey, it's me again, Margaret. So I'm drinking a Peerless, a big pick from last year, and it's a double oak. Can you explain the double oak? Is there a time in which you have to put it in the second barrel, or is there a time in which you think is the sweet spot for a second barrel, or is that all a taste thing?
Hey, Eric, thanks for the question. We didn't hear the first part. Whose double oak bourbon is that?
That's a big bourbon club.
Oh, we heard it that time. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, when it comes to double oak, the process. Sorry, I was making sure everything was all right. So, when you talk about double oak, the way it started with Kentucky Peerless was actually out of necessity. When you would have a barrel that would have a stave that was cracked or a hole that we couldn't patch beneath a band, basically we were worried that the whiskey wouldn't make it to maturity. Basically, the barrel would experience a catastrophic failure and we'd lose the whiskey. We don't like the idea of that, so what we do is we take it out of that barrel and put it into another new charred white oak barrel. And this would just be strictly out of necessity. So it could be 6 months in this could happen. It could be 6 years in this could happen. So when we see a leak that we can't fix, we put it in a new barrel. But we didn't want to obscure this, or we didn't want this to influence our flavor profile or our knowledge going into a tasting. So when we do our blind grading on what a barrel needs to be, we obscured from ourselves whether it was a double oak or a regular barrel. Well, as we went through the program and as we started tasting all this stuff and we'd go out to mark these grades, we discovered that we really, really, really loved these double oak flavor profiles that were being generated within our barrel population. And so what we did is we selected one as a single barrel and we put it in our gift shop and it sold within a week. And we had no idea that so many people were going to be so receptive to this product. We did it again. It sold like hotcakes before we could get our head on straight. And as we started going through this, we realized that we had something here that's really special, but not scalable. It wasn't something that we were going to be able to just strictly wait on barrels to fail to be able to build this new line item, this new idea. So what we started to do is, as we would go through and we'd grade barrels, and we would locate ones that were especially fruity or floral, prominent, or spicy, that could actually benefit and become balanced by increasing the barrel's contribution to the flavor profile. We started intentionally double oaking these. We started this process a little over 2 years ago, and we released a small batch of double oak bourbon this past fall that was actually named the number 8 whiskey in the world, reigning as of now for a small batch double oak product. By our approach, we didn't want to produce something that was solely oak-centric. We wanted something that was going to be a little bit more balanced. So the fruits, the florals, the herbs, the spices really shine through on this product. So to answer the question as far as a sweet spot, out of necessity, it's whenever the barrel needs it. But when you talk about this process, generally we're going to review the barrel at 4.5 to 5 years of age. Then we'll let it spend around another year in that secondary barrel, and then we'll start reviewing it for a batch assembly.
Thank you.
So we are pouring the next sample. This is one that we called Vent-Aged Sangria. Vintage meaning that it has a strong barrel and almost like a wine contribution to it. The Sangria name is actually going to be based in the fact that it has a lot of dark fruit notes as well as haven't drank enough whiskey. It doesn't have it has really nice citrus. What's up?
Hold on, everybody. What? Hey, hold on, everybody. We've got folks who want to hear the presentation, and we can't hear anything. Please, 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 please keep your talk down lower. Thank you.
Okay, vintage sangria. It has a very strong wine, a very strong oak. It has a lot of citrus and also has a little bit of white fruit, specifically for me, pear. But that's going to be up to you all as you nose this. This is 111.1 proof. It is going to be a very fruity, very non-rye rye whiskey. It is a single barrel. It is rye. I think you're really going to like this one. So the comment on the small batch rye was that it actually presented very well with the graininess from the corn to where it didn't stand out with that standard pepperiness, but is a little bit more balanced and sweeter.
So
But-
we've got a Caleb. I'm sorry. We've got a question from Facebook. You're international now in terms of distribution. Where are you and where are you going?
So currently we're available internationally in the UK, Canada, and Australia. We are launching soon in South Korea and Germany.
Kamsahamnida.
Yes, I like that. Very much so.
Kamsahamnida.
So very fortunate success overseas. So thank you.
Why did you choose South Korea? Is that a big whiskey market?
It is. In fact,
big bourbon market?
big bourbon market. It's growing rapidly. A very affluent market outside Seoul, Korea there. A lot of whiskey collectors are in Taiwan as well as South Korea.
So when you go to a new market like South Korea,
Yep.
do you take all of the SKUs there?
We do not. Great question. So typically we start with a single barrel selection. Why, you ask? We start with the aficionados, right? We want to build a following with the people that know whiskey. Once they accept your product, the people that are the followers of that group and on the periphery of that group eventually allow you to organically grow that brand. So you're doing it in a very genuine way.
We've got a question over here.
Go ahead.
Hang tight, everybody.
So why go overseas if you can't meet U.S. demand?
Well, it's kind of like a chessboard or roulette table, if you will. So we're trying to place these strategic bets abroad, not high volume, but high impact and high awareness in markets where there are and people that actually collect whiskey at a significant scale, because that even impacts things we're doing in the U.S. But the vast majority of our volume is still within the U.S. 98% literally of our volume is in the U.S. So these are very strategic chess pieces or roulette pieces on the table we're kind of placing to see what happens. It's kind of a test and learn, right? We see the opportunity, we see the analysis coming back and saying, okay, there's comp set brands over there. Go there and succeed. We think we can. But again, we're going to kind of grow responsibly and grow slowly. Yeah.
I have a question. Why is it that the rye seems to be more of like your premium brand compared to your bourbon? At least that seems how it's marketed locally. Couldn't hear me? Yeah. Why is it that your rye seems to be marketed, or at least in this market, seems to be more of your premium product than your regular bourbon?
So
Hey, by the way, Caleb, this guy flies left seat to Kimpo Airport in Seoul, Korea every night for UPS. So if you want to get it over there fast.
Incheon, but that's right.
Well, when I was at UPS, Kimpo, that shows you how old I am.
So rye, as far as a product, is actually going to yield less from the still, the grains, as opposed to a bourbon. Rye as a grain doesn't produce nearly as much alcohol, and as a result, you end up with a higher concentration of cost. So the marketing, as far as it is being higher or lower on the shelf, it's not necessarily that they're equals. The cost that goes into a rye whiskey is just more substantial relative to what we get back from it. So basically, the feedback from the audience was that in his local market, there is a limit, one per customer on the rye whiskey. That's not something that we saw broadly across the market, but it definitely is the representation of the demand that we see. So I'm glad to hear that, but hopefully you'll be able to find some more within your market.
So, yeah. So, hold on, before he speaks, he's Irish, so just be patient with me.
Is there a difference between Canadian rye whiskey and American rye whiskey?
So the question is there a difference between Canadian rye whiskey and American rye whiskey? And 100%. Anytime you go north of the border into Canadian whiskey, rye is used uniformly, interchangeably almost, when you talk about whiskey. So you could have a corn mash bill that's the predominant grain that could still be a rye whiskey. Additionally, when you talk about Canadian whiskeys, there's a lot of things that are permissible that are consistently with the brand identity. You can color, you can flavor, you can have additives, you can do certain things. You can dip below 80 proof, and that's just consistent with what they produce. Now, when you look at an American whiskey, it has to be all above board. There's no flavoring, there's no coloring, there's no monkey business. There is a certain level of purity that goes along with the spirit. So, yes, it is going to be extraordinarily different when you talk about a Canadian whiskey versus an American bourbon or rye whiskey.
All right, so we're going to give away 2 free passes to Peerless, Kentucky Peerless Distilling DSP 50, 2 tastings, and 2 passes for the tour. And here's what we're going to do. This is easy. Whoever traveled the furthest for this event wins. And I think I know who it might be, but if you travel further than Phoenix, Arizona, let me know. Bob and Jennifer, get up here.
Tucson, Arizona, right?
Come on.
Nice.
Come on. Come on, Big Mac and Little Mac. Grab your pass right here. So they flew in from Arizona and sat on my deck for 8 hours 2 nights ago and gave me a big headache yesterday morning. Thank you all for coming in.
That's awesome. Thank you all.
Okay. Okay, Bill, is this Mike Smith's question? Okay, so we've got a question from Allen, Texas. Actually, he's a neighbor of Stacy, who was on earlier. Mike Smith.
Great.
Is a great friend of ours and a big top shelf member of the Big Bourbon Club. Mike is driving, so he can't do the video. His question is, Caleb, to you, that he has heard you say before that you had a big influence from the Russells at Wild Turkey.
Oh, yes.
And to talk a little bit more about that relationship, and have you been able to share your success at Peerless with the Russells?
So when you talk about a young person coming into the industry, there was no, with my route to the industry, as Corky mentioned, there was ancestry, there was no pedigree, there was no connection to help me get into the industry. It was just strictly based upon people who took an interest in me and helping me achieve my dream. So when I was a youngster going around the industry, it was everything that I could do to get under some of these masters and industry icons to learn from what they achieve. And it's not just from what they do and how they speak, it's the individual philosophies that go into their product. So when I was going through and I was analyzing, say, for instance, a Wild Turkey, I love the way they use a low distillation proof. I love the way that they go into the barrel low proof. They leave it at a relatively high bottle strength, and what you end up doing is you start developing this foundation for what you feel makes a good spirit. Now, we don't mimic and we don't do exact, but we take inspiration from those who have come before us. So there is no, without a doubt, that some of these industry greats, the Jimmy Russells of the world, have paved the way for new distillers such as myself to enter the industry. So we take inspiration from those who have come behind us or come in front of us to allow us to not necessarily ride their coattails, but build upon their success. As far as sharing what the Russells have meant to me and the many, many people within the industry, I constantly trying to sing praises. Man, this mic keeps cutting in and out. I apologize, guys. I try my best to constantly speak to those who come before us. I try to constantly speak to those who have come before me and say that this generation's success is built upon those who have really laid that foundation. So I can't thank those who have built this industry enough.
Okay, so just real quick, sorry, that's me. That's me. We're going to end in 7 minutes sharp for the next group for the karaoke championships to come up. So what we're going to do, as soon as we end, we'll take Corky, Caleb, and Cordell, and we're going to move to the back of the room so they can clean up. Is that okay? And we'll hang out, and we'll have you all good with a nightcap?
Yeah.
Corky said we're going to have multiple nightcaps.
Speaking of nightcaps, we have one more sample to try.
Well, I thought we did the last sample.
No.
All right, let's go.
You've been making these people wait. So what you have in front of you.
Yeah, let's do the last sample that I thought we had already done. Sorry. Caleb, what's the fourth one?
Well, if you can't tell, Steve really enjoyed samples 1, 2, and 3, so you got to forgive the memory loss there for a moment. So what you have in front of you is the Vintage Sangria single barrel that is 111.1 proof that is available in the Kentucky Peerless gift shop. This is the one that I introduced a few moments ago that is a rye whiskey that does its best impression of many other things. What are some notes that y'all are getting from the nose? We're getting a creme brulee nose out there, a little bit of that crisp, bright sugar. For me, I also get this really nice, bright tropical fruit.
I get the citrus on it, too.
Absolutely. Moving to the palate, tell me what you're getting as you taste that whiskey.
All right, so just for fun, I just asked Corky what his favorite is of all of these. Corky said, well, before I tell you what he said, raise your hand if you think Corky Taylor, his favorite is the bourbon small batch, the first one we had. We got some hands back here. Not very many, though. Raise your hand if you think it's the rye small batch, the second sampling. Actually, we have... I didn't ask for you to speak. I'm just joking. Okay, raise your hand if you think the rye small batch is... All right, so let me tell you what Corky said. He said that all of his life, him and his buddies drank bourbon for 50 plus years. And they all drank the single barrel rye now. Did I paraphrase you correctly? All right. And he also said he doesn't care where you spend your money at Peerless as long as you spend your money at Peerless. He did not say that. All right, let's sip it up. Let's go.
Cheers. So I'm going to go back to the well. Give me your note. Hey, you spoke up first. You're not being picked on. You're being celebrated.
Hey, if you all want to exchange phone numbers or something, go ahead. But I got a question. Stacy. I'm just joking. Raise your hand if your favorite is the small batch bourbon that we tried first. Raise it high. Jenny, we got all the guys back here. We got about 8. Okay. Second, small batch rye. Raise your hand high. All right, let these guys know this is within 3 or 4% error because 3 or 4% of these people have no idea what I'm saying. Raise your hand if you like the bourbon single barrel. Oh boy. I think, Caleb, we've got a favorite in the... Raise your hand if it's a single barrel rye. I'd say it's almost a dead heat. Raise your hand if you like the double oak bourbon that we released. Big dog in the house. Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. All right, so time for one more question, and we're going to get off stage. We're going to move to the back. Jeremy, Whiskey Biscuit. Was the distillery always in Louisville?
No, it started in Henderson, Kentucky in 1889 up until 1917, then he shut it down. So we brought it back about 10 years ago.
Okay, here we go. All right, Brennan, last question. Go.
We do. We've got probably 3 or 4 bottles of the old.
Hey, Brennan, ask him if we can sample it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to bust out to the back to switch out. But here's the last trivia question. Listen up, big dog. All right, here we go. It's kind of a pregnant pause. I learned that in sophomore year in high school. Okay, so what is Eric Clapton's greatest song ever? Stop! You're all right. There was actually Derek and the Dominoes, Layla. Who plays the slide guitar right here? Who is this? Who's playing it? Dwayne Allman. This guy's roommate at the